Which wide receivers do you want to start this week? Which wide receivers are trending up from week 1? Which wide receivers are dust and their season's already over after 1 week? It's time to not overreact. It's time to target the best wide receiver options you can get moving forward in fantasy football. These are week 2 wide receiver rankings. We do this every single week. Smash like and subscribe and please help us out as a small channel. We already should have running back rankings already posted. We're going to do QB, tight end, defense next. So starting off with S tier, it's a big shakeup. It is a big shakeup now. The list you're looking at right now, most of it is from week 1 rankings. We're going to update this as we go. But the top person on this list is Puka Nacua. This guy had the best wide receiver season, a very good wide receiver season from a rookie. And then coming on this year, starting off hot. Obviously, last year was injury plagued, but he comes back and even with a concussion, even with blood dripping down his face, puts up 10 catches for 130 receiving yards. He had 23 fantasy points. He had 11 targets, brought in 10 of them, and he was banged up. He missed some snaps in this game. Potentially could have been more involved in the red zone, though last year he wasn't really a red zone player. This week, he projects out well in a matchup with the Tennessee Titans. I expect the Rams, who just sacked their opponent very often in week number 1, I expect the Rams to come out and put some pressure on Cam Ward, maybe force some turnovers, get good field position. Puka Nacua as the number 1 week 2 player. It's aggressive, but when healthy, this guy's elite. Now, I actually have CeeDee Lamb at number 2. Now, CeeDee Lamb also is a bit of a riser. We had him, I think, I guess we had him at number 2 last week as well, but he's number 2 behind somebody new. Now, CeeDee Lamb is on a revenge tour, which is why I think this guy's an elite option. Takes on the New York Giants. It's a heck of a matchup. Obviously, last week he had 13 targets. Dak Prescott looked locked in. CeeDee Lamb cost him the game, if you can say that. He said after his game that he's on a revenge tour. He's an S tier option. He's, obviously, all the way down to B tier. You're going to be starting these guys, but we're still going to break down how they did week 1, the week prior, and kind of their outlook for the week. Now, Jamar Chase, terrible week for Mr. Chase. He had 5 targets, only brought in 2 of them for 26 yards. So what's very interesting here, what is very interesting is the matchup. They take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, I believe that this is a positive, much easier matchup for this Bengals O-line. Hopefully they can protect Joe Burrow, and with protection, Joe Burrow projects out to dominate. Chase in S tier as well, but he's a faller. We put Puka and CeeDee ahead of him. We have Justin Jefferson on here. I've yet to see Monday Night Football. We'll see how JJ McCarthy looks. This is subject to change for Jefferson. A tier. So far, we have Malik Neighbors. Now, again, we're going to be changing this as we go. We'll see what I'm looking at. Malik Neighbors, the reason I like Malik Neighbors and where I had him ranked last week, comes out 12 targets, only brings in 5 for 71. This is a bottom of the barrel offense. Now, there's rumors that Brian Daboll went into the upper management and said, listen, let's put in the new guy. Let's put in Dart. Let's put Dart in. That would be a big mistake in my eyes, starting him out this early. But if Dart is in there, you probably bump Neighbors down for week 2. But with Russell Wilson getting 12 targets, he had a lot of deep balls that 50-50 didn't come down with them, but 12 targets, I mean, the volume is there. So even in a bottom of the barrel offense, that might be a good thing for Neighbors in his production output and his volume. So I actually like him a lot. In terms of the matchup, they take on the Dallas Cowboys. I think the Cowboys can be beat, but the cornerbacks look solid versus the Eagles. The Detroit Lions, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now, this is a bit scary because he only had, 5 targets. He had 6 targets, 4 catches for 45 yards. Laporta was ahead of him. They're bringing in Tesla, who's going to have a bigger role this week, they're saying. You have Jameson Williams, again, the extension. So Amon-Ra St. Brown has to be the focal point of this offense if they want to win. We saw that against the Packers. They choked. So I'm scared. I'm scared for the overall outlook for Amon-Ra St. Brown, but they take on the Chicago Bears, and I think that Amon-Ra St. Brown needs a solid game this week. He's a clear asset in the red zone as well, so the touchdown potential's there. I have him in A tier. I mean, it feels like it's a solid spot, but you're a bit concerned. Nico Collins. Nico Collins and the Texans had a bad performance. The Texans O-line was bad, man. This guy had 5.5 fantasy points. You're thinking to yourself, was he injured? Was he banged up? No. He just didn't play good. Only 3 receptions on 5 targets. They take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm still having Nico Collins in A tier. BTJ, I mean, again, another person that didn't play well. Didn't bring in his targets. He was targeted, 7 times? He had 7 targets, only 1 catch for 11 yards. He did have an end-around 9-yard rushing touchdown, which obviously kind of saved his fantasy day, but it wasn't great. Not good at all. Travis Hunter actually outplayed him, 6 catches for 33 yards. He had 1 for 11. Concerning for all of these guys in A tier, to be honest, except for Neighbors, but they still retain benefit of the doubt. Mike Evans comes in at B tier. He had a mediocre day, but I think better days are ahead for Baker Mayfield and this Buccaneers offense. He had 8 targets, 5 catches for 51 yards, but Ibuka was actually the person that was scoring the touchdowns. Now, Ladd McConkey comes in here, and Ladd McConkey is kind of like the comparable to Amon-Ra St. Brown. I feel like he's just He's Mr. Reliable, Mr. Consistent, call it what you want. The reason I do like Ladd McConkey is I feel like he's going to get the targets. It seems like it's his safety blanket for Justin Herbert, and man, oh man, did Justin Herbert look pretty dang solid. So in a matchup versus the Raiders, I think Ladd McConkey is a good, safe play. Garrett Wilson has to be somebody that we talk about. They take on the Buffalo Bills. They're probably going to be losing. And Fields actually looked pretty solid. 9 targets, 7 catches, 95 yards, and a tutty. Probably Fields' best passing game of his career. He also obviously was very dominant with the rushing game. We'll get to that in the QB rankings. But I like Garrett Wilson as a play. Like, you're playing him this week against the Bills. A.J. Brown. He falls down the rankings for sure, but he takes on the Kansas City Chiefs looking to rebound. I think he's obviously a start. Jackson Smith and Jigba, to be honest, we're doing this. We're putting JSN ahead of A.J. Brown. I know. And honestly, A.J. Brown could be... I'm putting Evans behind JSN. I think that's solid. I mean, Ladd could potentially fall. I'm putting JSN ahead of this. I'm putting JSN... Hell, I'm putting him in A tier. Jackson Smith and Jigba was insane, bro. This guy's target share, elite numbers in week number 1. You know, Scam Darnold, 13 targets, 9 catches for 124 yards. Scam Darnold threw for 150. JSN had 125. And I mean, enough said. Enough said. JSN dominant. They take on the Steelers. The Steelers just got 30 dropping their head, and Garrett Wilson was running all over them. Now, Tyreek Hill probably has to get bumped down the rankings. He probably has to. I still think, guys, like everyone's going to be way overreacting to the Dolphins. I still think Tyreek and Waddle are salvageable. I mean, Tua just had the worst game of his career. Maybe the O-line was terrible. Tua played really, really bad. But if they want to be an NFL team, Tyreek and Waddle are going to have to get a lot of receptions. Hopefully, it doesn't just all funnel through Achane. Now, Drake London, I would put Drake London probably up here in the top of B tier, maybe even higher. But the shoulder injury has me throwing him down here in C tier. Marvin Harrison Jr., a solid game, man. 5 catches on 6 targets, so not many targets, 71 yards and a touchdown. The touchdown makes his week solid. He plays the Carolina Panthers. It is a good looking matchup. I'm gonna throw him up there in B tier. DK Metcalf, he wasn't like, it's a deceptive week. They were kind of generating ways to get him the ball. It wasn't like he was, he's an alpha. He had a solid game. I'm gonna keep him right here where he is. Devontae, sorry Tyreek, you're done, buddy. We're going to put Tyreek behind him. Devontae Adams, similar story here. I think he had like 5 for 70. It wasn't the best game. Better days ahead. He should be involved in the red zone too. So I think he's still where he is. Emeka Egbuka, it feels like you have to bump him up. And I'm going to put him right here. I'm going to put him pretty high up. Like we're at 3, 6, 9, 12. Wide receiver 16 for the week feels pretty dang solid for a rookie. I mean, you know, people are going to overreact and probably call for me to put Emeka Egbuka even higher than this. But I can't do that, guys. Listen, he only had, 4 catches, only had 70 yards. Pretty solid for a debut. The 2 touchdowns boost his profile in my eyes. This honestly might even be too high for him. We're going to see where these other guys end up going. T. Higgins had a bad game. I think T. Higgins will bounce back. I honestly think, you know what we're going to do? I think Tyreek's too high. I think Tyreek is too high. I think we're going to have to bump up Higgins a little bit. We're going to put Higgins right next to Devontae. The main person we're going to bump up, I want Sutton ahead of Egbuka. Like the amount of targets that Courtland Sutton projects out to get in week 2, it's just more. It's just more. He's the clear alpha 1 in his offense. And the Denver Broncos, they're looking to bounce back in a big way. They take on the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts just had a massive win. Sutton had 9 targets, 6 catches, 61 yards, and a tutty. So I'm going to put Sutton ahead of Egbuka right there. T-Mac, Ted McMillan. Not a bad debut. I know people were actually somewhat disappointed when it comes to him. They take on the Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals just gave up 46 pass attempts to Spencer Rattler. They made him actually look decent, so that's a good sign. He had 9 targets. He had 5 catches for 68 yards. No touchdown, so it was kind of just a mediocre week, but I still think that we're going to keep him where he is in the rankings. I'm giving a lot of these veterans the benefit of the doubt, but another couple of dry weeks and he could even rise higher. Terry McLaurin has to be a bit of a faller. Not a good week for him, but we're going to keep him. I don't know. Reserve the right to... We'll see if we move any of these guys ahead of Terry, but probably not. Xavier Worthy's a big-time faller, man. The injury, I'm just going to put him down here. You know, he's going to try playing through that shoulder injury, but you're probably toast. Jamison Williams definitely has to fall down behind some of these guys. The immediate riser has to be Deebo Samuel, who was highly involved in that Commanders offense. Cliff Kingsbury is there, and we should have known that he was going to script ways to get that guy the ball. Pittman Jr. also has to rise, in my eyes. Devontae Smith has to fall. If Olave gets the same amount of targets that I think he had, 13 targets? If he keeps getting the same amount of targets, he's obviously not going to get touchdowns, which is going to hurt his, week-to-week ceiling. But he can get a lot of receptions, so that's not bad. Jerry Jeudy had a mid-game. I told you guys, like Waddle and Ridley, I think that there's still better days ahead. I'm going to reserve the right for judgment. Flowers had a massive game, but can we say that that's going to happen every single week? Probably not. Like, if we look at who the Ravens play this week, it's the Cleveland Browns, worst defense. So, I mean, do we think Flowers, people are calling him Zay Powers. Do we think history's going to strike twice? Probably not. Again, Jawan Jennings is also banged up, and this guy was dusty in week 1 anyway, so we're not even going to rank him, to be honest. Let's keep going. So, looking at the rest of these guys that we got, I mean, we already ranked a lot of them. We got Devontae Smith. They take on the Kansas City Chiefs. I feel like he's going to have a decent role. I'm honestly tempted to put Devontae ahead of Waddle and Ridley for now because these guys both kind of disappointed. But Calvin Ridley did have 8 targets, and Devontae Smith had 1 catch. So I'm going to put Ridley ahead of Devontae Smith. I honestly think Waddle's a better player than Devontae Smith this week too. Jalen Hurts is the better quarterback. I just think if the Dolphins go down by 30 again, Waddle and Tyreek Hill are going to have to be more involved in this passing game. DJ Moore I have not yet seen on Monday Night Football, so I have to reserve the right for judgment. Stephon Diggs was pretty mediocre in his debut with the Patriots. Kayshon Boutte was actually the main beneficiary. I know people want me to put Travis Hunter a bit higher, and in the rest of season rankings, I definitely will, potentially. But for week 2 specifically, versus the Cincinnati Bengals, I will bump him up a little bit. I'll put him ahead of Jalen Waddle. I'll bump him up a little bit. As he gets 6 catches, 33 yards, he was actually outscored BTJ if you take away the touchdown. The thing about Travis Hunter, they might start giving him more looks on defense as the weeks progress by, so not a huge fan of that. Marquise Brown, Hollywood. Where do you put Hollywood Brown is the question you got to ask yourself. Honestly, like, he had 13 targets. This guy had 10 catches, 13 targets. Wasn't very efficient, but he had a 45-yard reception. So I think Hollywood Brown, like with Xavier Worthy banged up, Travis Kelce looking dusty, I think Hollywood has to be bumped up to about right there. And I think these guys could be in a tier of their own. What we're going to do is we're going to put Ricky Pearsall. It sounds like George Kittle's going to be out for a few weeks. So I'm going to put Pearsall actually up here. I like him ahead of 10 million, so he's a big-time riser. Matthew Golden's probably fine right where he is. Jacoby Myers has to come up. I think Pickens has to come down a tier. I think Keenan Allen's good where he is. He's a big-time riser as well. I think the way we have these tiers looking, I mean, if we're going to put Pickens down, we probably bump down Devontae. We probably bump down Jalen Waddle. Who else had a pretty mediocre week? I mean, Jamison Williams, I think he's better days ahead. Josh Downs did not look good, but Josh Downs, hopefully he rebounds next week in a big-time game where if the Colts can win 2 weeks in a row, get off to a hot start, that would be massive for this team. Rome Odunze, haven't seen me on Monday Night Football. I know I'm harshly ranking him. We'll see how he plays against the Vikings before we project out how he plays versus the Detroit Lions in a game where I think they'll be losing. Khalil Shakir, solid day against the Ravens, I guess. I'm not going to be moving him too much in my rankings. Rashid Shaheed, he had a high amount of targets, so I'm going to bump him up a tier. He didn't come down with a touchdown pass. If he did, he probably would have been way higher up everyone's rankings. Keon Coleman has to be a big-time riser. I'm going to jump him all the way from F tier. I'm going to jump him ahead. That seems ambitious. We can't go ahead of we can't go ahead of the established guys, but Keon Coleman does seem like the one in that offense. I'm going to bump him up a whole tier, and I'm going to jump him up 7 or 8 guys. Darnell Mooney is back. Darnell Money Mooney is back, and this seems like a pretty fair rank. I'm gonna bump ahead of Shakir. I mean, actually, you know what? Drake London. With Drake London being out, I gotta put Darnell Mooney where I think he belongs. I think he belongs right there. Money Mooney, no Drake London. You could even bump him up a little bit higher. Cooper Kupp. It seems like the dream is dead here with Cooper Kupp. Not a very good week for him at all in week 1. He had 3.5 fantasy points, two catches on 3 targets for 15 yards, and I mean that is just not even worth talking about. Now there's a couple guys we have to add to the list. A couple guys, executive decision. Rashad Bateman didn't play well until the night football. We're going to add him to the list. Adam Thielen, let's see how he plays in his debut with the Vikings, but I'm also going to throw him on the list. The big Q, Quentin Johnston. He's going to jump ahead of these guys, but he's still going to stay behind the players on F tier. 5 catches on 7 targets, 2 tutties. He's relevant. Christian Kirk, back from injury, most likely week 2 to make his debut. He's worth putting on here. Xavier Legette is honestly going to be G tier until I see something that I like. I'm also going to have Marvin Mims on the list. I'm going to add Wicks to the list. I'm going to add Jaden Reed. Jaden Reed actually might be more playable than a lot of these guys. I'm going to put Jaden Reed ahead of the big Q. I'm going to put him ahead of the big Q. The Packers have a big matchup versus the Washington Commanders on Thursday Night Football. And then we have Cedric Tillman. I'm also going to put Cedric Tillman up here in flex play consideration. I'm probably being a little harsh on Shakira and Adunze. They could probably rise up there into E tier. But as of right now, man, I think I like the way these rankings are looking. So Jaden Higgins, we'll throw Jaden Higgins on here as well. But if Kirk plays, he's probably going to be right behind him. That seems like a solid week 2 wide receiver ranking. I mean, you can add Demario Douglas on there in this tier. You can add Josh Palmer, who both had decent days, I guess. There it is. Week 2 wide receiver rankings. That's like, what, 50 guys, man. Smash the subscribe button. Let me know. Hopefully this helps you out. Hopefully this helps you out with your start, sit decisions in your own lineup. We're going to have QB, tight end, defense coming up next. Thanks for watching.